This week, I was speaking with a member of our community who was dealing with a really intense, painful family situation and was headed to a challenging meeting. She was riding in a Lyft, random car, random driver. In front, he has on Christian radio playing low. She's riding. All of a sudden, she hears something on the radio that piques her interest. "Can you turn that up?" she asks. He turns it up, and the Christian radio broadcasters are talking about a verse from Joshua, where God says, "I will be with you as I was with Moses. I will not fail you. I will not forsake you." Just then, they pull up at her destination, and she gets out of the car. Now, she was telling me this, saying it was such an amazing moment, because I was riding in this car, and I was feeling so alone, and so afraid, and so overwhelmed. And then, of all places, the Christian radio. She texted me, "How freaking amazing to get that message from Christian radio of all places in the exact moment I needed it. And of all the verses they could possibly be discussing, they are not only discussing verses from my part of the Bible as a Jew, but they are also discussing the exact verses that I need to put my faith in right now." When she got out of the Lyft, she stood taller and stronger, fortified by the words of Torah echoing through Christian radio. Now, I just want to pause here for a moment, because the fact that she heard that is kind of amazing to me. I mean, let's just play this a different way. Imagine she gets into the Lyft. She's feeling scared and alone. She puts in her headphones and starts listening to music that will help her to calm down. She tunes out the radio. It's not her radio. It's not her choice. She's just going to put on something that's going to soothe her. That would have been totally a reasonable response. Right? When we're scared, it's so tempting to disconnect from the world, to go back to things that bring us comfort, foods and shows and social media and whatever the thing is. But because her phone was away, because she was looking around, and because her ears were open, she was able to hear this powerful Torah on the radio in exactly the moment she needed it the most. She texted me because she said it was a nice discussion on the radio, but I would like to look at that source in its Jewish context. Can you tell me where to find it? So I'm opening up my Tanakh and thinking about this verse, and I find myself humming a song that I learned in childhood. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. It sounds so familiar, so similar to that verse. So I open up my computer and type in, "Listen, listen, listen." Google, where is this song from? And it comes up Paramhansa Yogananda, who I follow to Wikipedia, was apparently a Hindu monk and guru and yogi who taught Hindu mysticism in this country in the first half of the 20th century. Weird. Why would a yogi be teaching Joshua in a chant? So I called my mom, from whom I learned the chant, and I said, Mom, you remember that song, Listen, Listen? And she immediately starts singing. I'm like, yes, that song. Where's it from? And she says, oh, we used to sing that whenever someone was in labor. When they were giving birth, we would sing that song, and we sang it at your naming. Okay. Mom, where did you learn that song? And she said, when I was living in the ashram. So I was like, Mom, I was just doing this Google search, and I came up with Paramhansa Yogananda. Does that sound familiar? Oh, yes, Swami Yogananda. Like, Mom, did you learn that chant from Yogananda? It has to be a rabbi. Keep looking. Keep Googling. So I'm Googling, and my mom's like, I found a rabbi. There's a rabbi that wrote it. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure. I continued my research. It, I think, really was Paramhansa Yogananda. And so I'm thinking, like, how this guy must have had to have his ears open and his heart open to be connected in that way, to be channeling Torah through this lens and to be writing this. It's amazing, but I digress. I still had to find the verse for our member. So I go back to the Tanakh, and I look it up, and it's amazing. The context of the verse might even be more powerful than the verse itself. So, just a refresher, Joshua, the book of Joshua, which comes after the Tanakh, Joshua lived with the people in the desert. He was a lookout for Moses during the whole episode of the golden calf. He was one of 2 spies that went into the promised land the first time and came back with a favorable report. Remember, everyone else comes back with a very, very negative report. And when Moses is nearing the end of his life, Joshua is deputized to be the next leader of the Jewish people, to take them into the promised land. Now, if you're just thinking about literature, thinking about this story, you think like, okay, this people has dealt with 430 years of slavery. They have endured so much suffering and so many unknowns. They made it through the wilderness 40 years. They finally get to the promised land, and if there's any justice, they walk over, and it's beautiful, and they welcome them with beautiful cosmopolitans and trays of fruit, and they just live happily ever after in Gan Eden. But that's not at all what happens. In Joshua, God says, leave your children and your livestock, all the vulnerable parts of your community here, and you're going to go over and you're going to battle and you're going to battle and you're going to battle, and every day you're going to fight for every bit of land you will ever inhabit. And, God says, Ani, just as I was with Moses, ka'asher ha'iti im Moshe, ehyeh imach. Lo erpecha velo ezvecha. Just as I was with Moses, I will be with you. I will not fail you, and I will not forsake you. It's amazing. Just as I was with Moses, except that God isn't going to be with him like God was with Moses. God isn't going to do wonders, and God isn't going to do signs. God isn't going to swoop in with an outstretched arm and just make it easy for them. No. God is saying to be in this promised land is to fight an existential battle of survival, but you have to do that fight. You have to step forward each and every day. I will be with you. I will not forget you. I will not forsake you. But you have to do the hard work. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. We're headed shortly into Passover. And at Passover, we tell the story of our Exodus. We tell the story of God intervening in history and performing miracle after miracle, wonder after wonder. But it's hard in our world today to imagine that story ever being possible. In the fraught political climate that we live in this country, in the pain and brokenness that our beloved Eretz Yisrael faces with hostages still in Gaza. Still. And I don't need to go into the brokenness all over the world. Maybe the story we need at our Seder tables this year is the story of Joshua. Because there's no one that's going to save us. There's no one that's going to swoop in. It's on us to fix what is broken. But like Joshua, we have to remember that God is with us each and every step of the way. God will not forget us. God will not fail us. God will not forsake us. We just have to keep walking. We have to keep fighting. We have to keep working to live in our promised land. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Can we listen? Shabbat shalom. We rise. Page